Hi, this is Gabe from FluentForever.com. In this third video, we're going to talk about Arabic's vowels. My primary goal here is to get you familiar with the IPA symbols for those vowels and to give you a rough sense of how they fit in your mouth. Now keep in mind throughout this process, the better you learn to hear these sounds, the better you'll be able to keep track of which one is which, and the better you'll produce them. We're going to be talking a bit about tongue placement, so to give you a rough sense of that, try this. Compare E, and a in English, as in seat, set, and sat. You'll notice your tongue starts up high, E, goes through the middle of the mouth, and then goes down to a. So your tongue can go up and down. Now, it can also go forward and back. Compare as in bet and as in but. Your tongue goes forward for and then pulls back for bet, but. Now, if you'd like a much more in-depth discussion about vowel formation, check out some of the videos linked below, but for the beginning, that's about all you're going to need. So, with that said, let's get to some Arabic. As before, I have Mustafa here to help me with this.
Hi.
So, Arabic vowels are honestly really tricky to discuss. When I was researching this language, I wanted to get answers to two questions. How many vowels are there in MSA, and what do they sound like? And what I found, frustratingly enough, is that each person I asked seemed to give me a different answer to both of those questions. Some said Arabic had only 3 vowels, some said 6, some articles said 12. I think this is happening for 2 reasons. One, because the writing system is based on consonants, vowels tend to take a back seat. I don't think native speakers tend to notice them happening as much because they're usually not visible in written text. And 2, there's the dialect issue again. Different dialects have different sounding vowels, and since no one speaks MSA as their native dialect, it's hard to come out with a definitive standard. This issue has forced me to make some decisions about which vowels to teach you, and ultimately, I think the most useful way to describe Arabic is to talk about 6 vowels. Those vowels are divided into long and short varieties, and we'll start with the long ones because those are the ones that everyone seems to agree upon. Fortunately, they're also pretty easy to nail down.
Those vowels are e, and u.
And we'll start with the easiest one.
E shows up in Arabic's Iran, deen, and English's teen.
And it is basically the same in both languages, unless your dialect of English actually uses 2 vowels when you say E. If you say si or say, you'll need to get rid of that first vowel and stick to the second, si. You'll see in IPA that this uses a lowercase I followed by a colon-looking thing. That colon-looking thing, that just means you should make the preceding sound longer.
So it's not din, it's deen. Next, u shows up in Arabic's boom and English's boom.
Again, this vowel is pretty much the same in both languages, but as we just mentioned with E, some dialects, actually many dialects of English, will use 2 vowels here as well. They'll go boom, where Arabic will consistently use just one pure oo.
Boom. The last of Arabic's long vowels is e, as in taj or an.
This vowel is a bit tricky. It's similar to English's a as in an, but the tongue is a bit higher in the mouth. Kind of close to where you'd say e as in n.
You can get a feel for that by comparing those 2 words in English. An. When you say an, your tongue is low and relatively back in your mouth. And when you say n, your tongue moves upwards. An, a, e. The Arabic vowel is in between those 2. An.
So, with those out of the way, let's move on to the short vowels. And here is where we start running into disagreements. I spoke at length with a really great teacher of Arabic pronunciation who was taught that in perfect, properly pronounced MSA, the short vowels are actually just shorter versions of the long ones. They have the exact same tongue position, and so they sound exactly the same, but are just spoken for a shorter amount of time.
E turns into I, U turns into U, and E turns into E.
That said, most native speakers will change their tongue positions for the short vowels, at the very least slightly, and so I want to show you how that works now.
First off, we'll talk about short E.
Since this one doesn't really change tongue positions all that much, which is why it keeps the same symbol in IPA and just drops that colon-looking thing.
So that's E, as in as-sa'a. And if you want to compare it to the long E, you can compare fahim to fahim. Fa.
In terms of how this works in the Arabic writing system,
the short vowel is marked using a symbol called a fatha,
which you'll place over a consonant.
So this letter makes a f sound, and when you put a fatha over it, it turns into fa, fahim. Next, we'll go to short I, as in imtihan or dhi'b.
This vowel is basically the same as English's I vowel, as in sit, and it uses the same symbol that IPA uses for that sound in English. It's a small capital I. Now be aware, you will hear some speakers with a higher or lower tongue position from that.
So you may hear dhi'b or dhi'b from time to time.
But if you stick with I as in sit, you should sound fairly neutral. In the Arabic writing system,
This vowel is marked with a symbol called a kasrah.
which you place under a consonant.
So here's th and here's dhi'b. If you want to compare the Arabic short I to the long I, you can compare amil and amil. Our next vowel is U, as in khubz or sukkar.
The IPA symbol is a curly U, which is the same symbol we use in English for as in book or soot.
And the Arabic short U has basically the same tongue position. If you want to compare the short U to the long U, you can use jud and jud.
In the Arabic writing system,
This vowel is marked with a squiggly symbol known as dhammah. It goes on top of consonants, just like our a vowel, fatha. So here's kh, and when you put the dhammah on top, it turns into khu, khubz.
and with that, we've covered the basic long and short vowels of Arabic. Now, I want to cover a couple of final things before we review all of this. First off, now that you're a bit familiar with the three symbols used to mark those short vowels, I can point out how long vowels are indicated in the Arabic writing system. Basically, Arabic has three consonants that can take a short vowel and turn it into a long one.
Alif, waw, and ya. Alif lets you make long a sounds, which you'll be able to see in the pair of example words we used a little earlier, fahim and fahim. In both words, you'll see a fatha over the first f sound, but you can see in the second word that the fa is followed by an alif, and that alif has no diacritics on it whatsoever. That combination, a fatha followed by a totally unmarked alif, that is a long a sound, fahim.
It works the same for the other two long vowels.
For E, instead of fatha and alif, you're using kasra and ya. So here's amil and amil with a long E sound. And you can see the kasra followed by an unmarked ya in the second word. And for long U, you'll use dhamma and waw. So here's jud and jud with a long U sound. And you can see the dhamma followed by an unmarked waw in jud.
So that is the first thing I wanted to cover. The second is what happens when any of these vowels show up after one of Arabic's emphatic or uvular consonants. This is something we actually already discussed in the last video.
Which is that if you compare words like sar to sar,
The tongue position of the consonant, or the tongue pulled way back towards the uvula, that will affect the vowel that comes after it.
some more examples of this would be teen and teen, tarib and tarib, fatir and fatir. This happens around the four emphatic consonants, ta, va, sa, da, and also around kha, qa, gha, and ra.
The idea for all of these consonants is that they're causing the back of your tongue to pull back towards your uvula, and it's actually really hard to force your tongue all the way back forward to the front of your mouth when the vowel starts. So instead of doing that, you just leave your tongue in that further back position, which affects what the vowel sounds like. Now, if we wanted to be really accurate with our vowel symbols in IPA, then it might be appropriate to introduce a whole bunch of new symbols for those new tongue positions. And I think that can be valuable to do with long and short a.
Since that vowel moves all the way from a as in tarib to a as in tarib.
It's a really big shift. And so when I transcribe Arabic words in IPA here and in my trainer and in the word lists, I will make that distinction. But for the other vowels, the change is much more subtle, and it's something that your tongue is going to do naturally whether you think about it or not.
It's basically impossible to say a sound like qa, where you're almost swallowing your tongue, without that consonant having an effect on the vowel.
And so if you don't really need to think about it to make it happen, then you don't need to worry about it. And adding additional IPA symbols is kind of counterproductive. So those are going to be our vowels for Modern Standard Arabic. To summarize everything and review it all.
We have short I as in imtihan or dhi'b,
which is really close to English's is and sit and is indicated in Arabic using this diacritic
known as a kasra.
under a character.
Then if you see that diacritic with the letter ya afterwards, you'll get long e as in Iran or deen.
It is basically the same as English's e as in teen.
Comparing the long and short vowels, you can use amil and amil. E. Next, the short u as in khubz or sukkar, which is indicated with this diacritic known as dhamma.
It's basically the same as English's as in foot.
And if you see that diacritic with a wow afterwards, you'll get long oo as in boom.
This vowel is extremely close to English's oo as in boom.
Then we had short a as in as-sa'a and long a as in taj.
The long and short vowels have basically the same tongue position, somewhere in between English's a as in an and e as in n.
You'll see the short vowel indicated with a fatha over a consonant and the long with a fatha plus an alif. Last, we talked about how the emphatic consonants t, v, s, b, and also kh, q, gh, and r will affect vowels.
Pulling the tongue further back in the mouth. For 4 of the vowels,
I, e, u, and oo.
this is going to be pretty automatic and not something you need to worry much about.
But for the short a and long a, the effect is a lot more pronounced, changing the tongue position all the way from a as in sar to a as in sar.
So here we'll be using this IPA symbol for that a sound. And with that, we're done with all of the sounds of Arabic. Our next stop are going to be a few quirks in Arabic spelling rules.